to Art in Fremont Falls Church and our 6,542nd First Friday event.
Wow. But who's counting, right?
We're close. We'll get there one day. Wow. Caitlin, thank you so much. The music. Well, our featured artist, the passion and the ability to be living a dream is absolutely shown on the wall here. And it is with great privilege and pride that I introduce the featured artist. Dale!
Just a couple thank yous, and thank you all for coming out. So again, my name is Dale Hoffmeyer, and I'm originally from, grew up in a small town in Nebraska, where farmers are very common and artists are not. I left that small town and I went to college, and I thought that engineering and physics might be a very practical and reasonable path to follow, and I followed that path. But even 30 years ago, I thought about it, or it occurred to me that, you know what, maybe I should have followed art instead. I guess about 40 years ago, well, not 40 years, when I turned 40, excuse me. I guess when I turned 40, I thought about this, and I thought, you know, I don't think it's really practical for me to not continue to, or to pursue my interest in art. So at 40, I sort of made a decision. And one of the things I did was I joined the Art League in Alexandria, Virginia in 2013. And my goal was to have some art exhibited in one of their juried exhibits. They have a juried exhibit every month, and a lot of people enter and only a few people get picked. And in November 2013, one of my paintings was picked. It was actually this small painting here called Hirshhorn, and it was picked for that show. And I entered two works, actually, this small work and another beside it, which is a sculpture that's in the sculpture garden at the Hirshhorn. And whenever I see whenever I see sculpture or architecture that I admire, I like to paint it. And that's really what sort of inspired me to paint these paintings. When you're an artist, you can take some liberties. And in this small painting here of the sculpture, there's some figures that are moving around, and what's interesting about those figures, or what interests me, was the emotional tension between them in the actual sculpture. And I was interested in that, and somebody actually asked me once, what's the deal with the green guys? You know, is it Martians or something? And, well, no, actually they're bronze sculptures, and so they have a green patina. But I didn't want it to paint it exactly like what it looked. I wanted to paint it a little darker green. And so that's what you can do when you're an artist. You can make stuff up. And so I chose a green with yellow highlights and blue shadows. And the purpose was to contrast with the purple in the background. And I thought that that had a more visual appearance. And that's why I went with that. But you could also say maybe they're green with envy. And that's why there's that emotional tension going on there. There's a couple other paintings that were inspired by architecture and sculpture. This painting right here is a painting of a sculpture that's in Barcelona. It's at the Miró Foundation Museum. And this painting here is of an air vent on top of an apartment building. It's called Casa Mila, and it was designed by Antonio Gaudi. And it's an air vent, but I think you could argue that it's also a sculpture. And that's what a lot of the work that he did. He's also the architect of the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, which is the largest church in Europe, or basilica. It's not a cathedral, and it's still not completed. But it's quite an amazing building, and the type of work that he did is quite interesting. And so that's why it inspired me to paint that. Now I'm also inspired sometimes by everyday objects. There's a few sort of everyday objects here. A door, a box of donuts, a cup of coffee. And I guess what really inspired me about that was just certain emotions that those images inspire or recall. For example, decision, anticipation, peace or relaxation. This is titled Me Time, and it's really that little bit of time that you can carve out of a busy day where you don't have any responsibility, and you can just have a little peace. That's sort of what that's kind of all about in that painting. There are a few abstract paintings in this exhibit. There's one up here, and then over by Caitlin, there's a few on the short wall. There's 4 of them over there, and they're titled The Second Half. Second half, and they're very different than some of the others. So what I wanted to do with those paintings is on the top, it's sort of expansive. At the bottom, it's more structured and closed in. And if you look at the bottom part could represent many different things. It could represent bitterness, it could represent anger, it could represent a loss, depression, expectations, or an addiction, things like that. And then there's white sort of around that, which is sort of what we like to show to everyone else. The top half, or the second half, is more expansive, and it could represent things like freedom, it could represent things like energy, healing, or redemption. And as an artist, I'm inspired by different ideas and different emotions, and that's why I paint these paintings. But for you as a viewer, it's really up to you what you see in them.